Hello, hello, hello. This is attorney Mike Gravelin coming to you from beautiful Southern California. I had a great time last night. I threw a couple pictures up in the community post. Was at a lovely wedding for Alita from Legal Bites. Her they put on a beautiful event. I mean, it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful event. We had just a pile of fun. I just threw up a couple pictures that I had handy, but there's a ton of other pictures out there on the internet. There are other people. I saw Joe Neerman as well. I saw Nate the lawyer. I saw Bree. We all had a ton of fun. There's a couple more things planned, but that's what happened there. Wasn't my story to tell till now, but it's all out and about these days. So I just wanted to give a thank you for that. I also want to give a thank you for a viewer sending this next clip to me on IG. It's out there. And I started watching this thing. The hearing's about an hour and a half long. I just cut it down to the good part because, well, I was at a wedding last night. So I just went straight to the good stuff. It's a custody hearing, and it's the court's doing a really good job. Hi, Night and Knee. The court's doing a really good job, and they're sticking with their guiding principle, the best interest of the child. And you got a couple that wants custody of their children back. They haven't lost custody. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. I don't do this area of law, but the children are currently placed, but it's not like you'll see in the video. They explain it. They can get their children back, but they have to show that they got their lives together. And they do make steps in that regard, but everyone's not confident they've made it there. So you have a very good, rational hearing, and the mother testifies for a long time. Okay, we're going back and forth. I cut in where they're giving the ruling, and you sort of see the background of the whole situation. And as we come in here, you'll see it's all going okay until Dad has to open his mouth, and it's pretty interesting stuff. So let's get it started.
The house that I would call for him, I just think we'd just be duplicating it. So I'm not going to call any witnesses.
Well, Mr. Collins, it sounds like Mr. Ferris has a lot of strong opinions in this case, so I am actually interested in hearing what he has to say. I mean, I can't force you to call your client, but I mean, here's the thing. Judge, if he has opinions that he wants to be heard, and I want to make sure that I've given him an opportunity to be heard in this case.
Judge, I've given his advice as his attorney based on what's going on in this hearing today. I advised him not to testify.
Okay, so there you have it. That we've heard from Mom, and the judge is saying, "Hey, I'd like to hear from Dad." Dad's attorney says, "No, I told him not to testify," and he was right in doing so. This David Collins is doing a good job. The judge is doing a good job. All the attorneys are doing a good job from their perspective. It's really a well-run hearing, and everyone's taking this very, very seriously. But you'll see that Mr. Ferris's attorney here, David Collins, was correct in that it was against his client's interest to start talking.
Someone else wants to choose him. I've got no control over that, Judge, but I don't see the need for it. And I think his testimony, from what he's told me, is going to go similar to what Mother testified. So I just think we'd be hearing the same stuff, just from another person.
Okay. Mr. Davis, any witnesses you wish to call today?
Thank you.
No witnesses, Judge.
So, Mr. Davis, well, actually, I'm going to come back to you last. So, Ms. January, what, if anything, are you requesting on behalf of your client today?
Yes, Judge. As of the last hearing, I believe the court's orders have been followed.
I think this is
the department's concerns at the last hearing was that my client didn't have adequate housing for the children. She's now shown that she has adequate housing for the children. She's complied with the service plan. She complied with the court's orders. There's no evidence of any recent drug usage. She acknowledges she's angry about or upset about her children being in the
That's not quite true. Again, I'm not familiar with this stuff, but it appears that they've been doing your analysis, and the last few tests have been clean, which is good, and everyone's positive about that. But it appears that they have some concerns based on hair follicle testing. I don't know the difference. I don't claim to, but that's sort of the crux of the matter between them. There's, her attorney's saying, "Hey, just give them full custody back. Stop intervening in their lives. They've fixed it." And the department and other people are saying, "Yeah, we need to monitor a little bit longer." That's the fight that we have.
Situation and would like her children returned to her. So we would ask that her children be returned to Miss Ashley Smith. In the alternative, if that is not ordered today, then we would ask for increased visitation and access unsupervised to work on a plan to get the children back home to her, to not restrict video access and visitation, and to not restrict or have the visits supervised but increased to an unsupervised manner and more time, if not returned to her. Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Collins.
And Your Honor, it's the same father and mother. We're asking the same thing that Ms. January just laid out.
Okay, Mr. Davis, do you have a report and recommendations for
We just had September, and now we have Miss January.
the court today?
Yeah, we got a calendar going.
Judge, I request that these parents do some kind of anger management, Judge. Again, we're here a month or two later, and we're dealing with the same situation. There's still concerns of drug use. There's concerns.
Attorney Shea Davis's recommendation seems like a darn fine idea here in a few minutes.
That mom's dyeing her hair. I would request that she have to do a nail bed test, Judge. The virtual calls, we're still having these issues where mothers berating and disparaging the placement in front of the children. There's concerning texts between both parents and the grandmother. The grandmother is fed up. She doesn't want to have to monitor these virtual calls or communicate with these parents in any manner. So I'm asking that those virtual calls are stopped, or they're done or monitored by someone else, Judge. As far as an increase in visitation, Judge, I'm concerned that we're still having these drug concerns and they're having unsupervised visits with their children. That's very concerning. Mother said her last use was in November, and here we are in June, and she still has drugs in her system. And the father still has drugs in his system. As far as the children are concerned, Judge, they're in great placements. These placements could be permanent. I think it's almost a blessing that this is a motion to participate for these parents. And maybe that's the reason why they're not doing what they need to do, because they know that these children are placed with family.
Thank you, Peggy.
With all due respect, Mr. Shea Davis.
Well, Miss Davis. Sorry, Mrs. Smith. Nobody called on you. Go ahead, Mr. Davis.
And so, Judge, I think the community,
thank you,
to kind of sum all this up, Judge, in regards to the parents, the communication between the mother and the parents and the placement needs to stop. The virtual calls need to be monitored by someone else. I do not agree with an increase in visitation with the parents and the children. The parents need to take some kind of anger management, some kind of course, aside from the therapy that they're getting, Judge. As far as the children are concerned, like I said, I have no concerns with their placements. They are healthy, developmentally on target. They're doing well. And my biggest concern is the parents. And again, I just think this is a blessing that this is a motion to participate and not a legal case.
Ms. Codado, anything else from the department today?
I am.
Yes, Judge. As testified to today, the department would like Ms. Smith and Mr. Ferris to do another OSAR assessment, given the results of their latest hair follicle test. The department is not opposed to the parents participating in some sort of separate anger management program, given the communication that the department continually receives from both Ms. Smith and Mr. Ferris. And today the court, and today the department would ask that another hearing be set in this matter.
Yep, that's what we got, Tom. And thank you.
Okay, based upon the testimony today, and we've had a fair amount of it today. I guess we've been doing this case for about an hour now. I thought it was important to let this case go a little bit longer today so that we could have testimony and make sure everybody feels heard. I do find that this case needs to be extended. We have not gotten these children to a place where they can be returned home, and that's no one's fault but Ms. Smith and Mr. Ferris.
By the way, as he sort of gives his ruling here, like he said, they've had testimony for a long time. For what it's worth, it doesn't matter, and I don't practice in this area. This judge just seems to make all sorts of sense to me. He seems to be handling it. He's taking it all in. He's given everyone an opportunity, and I don't find any of his rulings outrageous in the least.
Our next hearing in this case.
I need to quit lying on us.
Listen, Shay Davis hasn't even done his job. He has
Not at all.
He has, the Texas Penal Family Code says he's supposed to interview the parents, says he's supposed to interview the school teachers, the doctors, et cetera, et cetera. He has done none of that. None of it.
Trevor, I'm going to ask you to stay quiet. This does not help your case.
I don't give a shit what helps no more. Like, I'm done with being lied on,
Nothing
man.
I do
I'm
helps.
done with being
Nothing
lied
at
on.
all. None of it. None of it matters.
Mr. Ferris, I'm going to provide you with an opportunity to apologize to the court.
I apologize for cursing, sir. I'm sorry. But I'm absolutely done being lied on. My mother is the most manipulative, narcissistic, lying woman you will ever meet in your life, and I am done with it. She wants nothing more than my children. From the day I was born, she wants nothing more than my children.
Okay, so let me back up for a minute. Let me explain this case to you a little bit, Ms. Smith, Mr. Ferris. This is not a conservatorship case. Okay,
I understand that, sir, but that's what she wants.
Trevor, the judge is talking. Let him talk.
Mr. Ferris, I'm trying to be polite and respectful to you. I expect the same from you. If you're not able to do that, I will hold you in contempt. Do you understand that?
Whatever needs to happen, sir.
So is that what needs to happen? That
I
I find you in contempt, Mr. Ferris?
No, Judge, I think you misunderstood the question.
What I'm lied about, sir.
So what's
I love his attorney. I think he misunderstood. No, this attorney's doing a fantastic job. He's telling him to stop talking. He's saying don't testify. He knows what the problem is, but he can't control him. I mean, the man is doing everything possible, but, you know, the client won't have it.
back up for a minute and talk about what this case is. This case is a court-ordered services case. This is not a conservatorship case. So there's an important distinction there. The distinction there is that nobody is seeking to terminate your parental rights. Nobody is seeking to take your children from you. I will say this case started back on January 26, 2022 is when I first issued orders in this case. I will say that you are getting to be at the point now where you have gone further than almost any family that I have in my court as far as court order services. Most cases are resolved within about 90 to 100 days. So you're already in a special group of people who just somehow has not figured out a way to manage to get your children home because you're not able to
My
find.
mother does nothing but lie to y'all. That's it. Y'all are feeding off my mother's lies. That's the only reason my kids aren't home. The hair follicles, y'all need to do some damn research and education for. Because
And Mr. Ferris, this is the last time. If you interrupt me again, I'm going to hold you in contempt.
Hold me. I'm done
Okay.
being lied on. I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with all of it. I want a new judge. I want a whole new fucking court order then. I'm done. I'm fed the fuck up with your biased ass shit.
Okay, Mr. Ferris, the court holds you in contempt,
Fuck
direct
you.
contempt. You're fined $500 and 24
You kiss
hours of
my ass and
incarceration.
Tell that $500 up your ass.
Okay, you're now sentenced to 3 days imprisonment. You're to report to Guadalupe County. Mr. Collins, you need to write this down. I found your client in direct contempt. Your client is to report himself to the Guadalupe County Jail by 4 p.m. today. He will serve 72 hours in incarceration starting at 4 p.m. If your client does not report by 4 p.m. today, I'll take that into account and may find him further in contempt and increase that to a longer duration.
I'll be filing my motion of withdrawal shortly, Your Honor, as well.
You file whatever you believe is appropriate, Mr. Collins.
Can I just clarify, Your Honor, real quick? Report to Guadalupe County Jail today by 4 p.m. for 72
serve
hours.
72 hours incarceration. There will be a written order that I do over lunch, so you can look for that too. So let's go back to the other orders today. This case, as I said, is to be extended. As to the department's request for a new OSAR assessment,
Calm down, Trevor.
Oh, y'all call outburst and be protecting my kids, y'all down. Y'all fucking, whoa.
Calm down. Calm down.
Chicken shit.
Miss Smith, can you put yourself on mute, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's done. I'm sorry.
Ms. Smith, this is Judge Stuckey. Do you feel safe?
Yes. He's just, I understand. He's angry. He's upset. We love our kids and y'all continue to keep them from us. And I understand that in the beginning it was a concern. And I will admit that we had problems that we need to work on. But at this point, in this time, in this case, I don't feel like anybody cares to see the progress that we have made or knows, like y'all are looking at drug test results that y'all can't even tell me.
Thank you, Peggy, number one. But also what she's saying is wrong. And she's being fairly reasonable here, and then she gets hysterical, and then she's reasonable. She kind of oscillates back and forth. But I watched the hearing. The judge was, I'm very impressed with this judge. In fact, this whole flat affect that he's showing right now is very purposeful. It is clear to me that he's doing that. He cannot, when they're getting all emotional and nuts, he's running the show. He's got to do that. It's not fun. It takes effort. But they were listening, and he was seriously considering all the factors and thinking, what should I do here? Their first concern is what's best for the children. Their next concern is to try to get, and they hope that is to get the children back to their parents. They hadn't quite demonstrated that was the best interest of the children yet, and he was trying to get there, but he needs some help from them. So whatever. It's just that's just my view of it as I watched the whole hearing.
The reasoning behind them, like I had to send Google links to my caseworker so that she could understand how drug testing works, because that, like, I haven't done anything. I even offered them yesterday.
That's a bad flex. I know better how drug testing works than the probation officer. Well, then maybe you've been drug tested too much, and stop talking in court.
That I would go every other day if they wanted me to take a swab or a drug test or anything, and then I could have my kids back.
Okay, Ms. Smith, I'm going to address the drug test in a minute. I want you, if at any point you feel unsafe with Mr. Ferris around you, to please call the police department. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, so back to the court's orders. As to the department's request for the mother to have a new OSAR assessment, that is only required of Ms. Smith in this case if she should test positive on another UA drug test. That same order is for Mr. Ferris. He is only ordered to have a new OSAR assessment if he tests positive on a UA. As to the mother's visits, I am not changing her visits. Her visits will remain 4 hours per week unsupervised. As to Mr. Ferris, based upon his conduct before the court today, I don't think that I can trust Mr. Ferris to stay calm around his children. So his visits are now going to be weekly for 1 hour at Child Protective Services. If Child Protective Services is not comfortable supervising his visits, then those visits will occur at Kids Share at the expense of Mr. Ferris. Under no circumstances is Mr. Ferris to visit the children with Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, you will lose your right to unsupervised visitation if Mr. Ferris is present during any part of that visit.
Okay.
And Your Honor, and I have sent Mr. Ferris the text informing him to report to the Guadalupe County Jail today, June the 23rd by 4 p.m. for 72 hours confinement. And then if he doesn't, it could be more time added on to that.
Again, this attorney Sharp, he does that on the record on purpose because he doesn't have faith that his client will do it. And what he wants the judge to know is it's not me. I heard your ruling. I passed it along. That's where we are.
Okay, as to the video calls, I think it is a good idea that those video calls no longer be supervised by placement. So the Department of Family and Protective Services, being the caseworkers, will supervise those video calls. We are going to change those to 2 times per week during work hours. So again, our next hearing in this case will be on September 15th, 2022 at 9:30 in the morning. I'm going to say the same thing that I said at our last hearing on May 26th, that I would like this to be our last hearing. And Ms. Smith, you're in charge of that. If you're able to provide a safe and appropriate home for your children, then that will be our last hearing. If not, the case will continue.
Judge, can you look at my chat, please?
Additionally, we're going to move, let me change the time of that hearing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to change the time of the hearing since this hearing seems to take a little bit longer normally than some of our other ones.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to change our next hearing to September 15th, 2022 at 11:30 a.m.
See, they're trying to make the case that the court's out to get him. The court is saying, I want this to be over. But please, please give me an excuse to close the case and to give your children back to you. And then he sets it over and gets a private chat saying, well, this thing takes a while because there are a lot of people involved and everyone wants to ask their questions and so forth. So he even sets it on the call, sets it aside to give it more time. So this judge is doing everything in his power to help them. He's just not convinced that it's in the best interest of the children yet. And he wants to be. So, and everything that's gone on here is reasonable from my perspective.
Instead of 9:30 a.m. So again, 11:30 a.m. Okay, so for all the attorneys in this case, please be looking for that order of direct contempt against Mr. Ferris. That will be issued here hopefully in the next hour to hour and a half. Any questions about the court's orders today other than the contempt finding?
Yes, Judge. Are you officially issuing an extension in this case for another 180 days?
Yes, this case is extended, Ms. Quadrado.
Thank you, Judge.
And I'm sorry, Judge, if I missed, I believe they had asked for anger management for my client. Is that something, I apologize if I missed it. I just wanted to
Let me go back
know
through and see what I've already stated. Looks like I neglected that. Yes. So in this case, it sounds like Ms. Smith is doing she's not doing the job that everybody liked for her to do potentially, but I'm not going to order Ms. Smith to engage in anger management. But Mr. Ferris, upon his release from incarceration, is ordered to participate and complete an anger management program.
Clarification, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Allen.
There were no concerns regarding the video calls or the phone calls with the oldest child, Logan, and the placement that he's in. Is that still to change, or is it across the board, or is this just with grandmother?
No, if the department does not have concerns with the communication between Ms. Smith and Logan, then those will remain the same.
Okay.
And thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Allen. Okay, any other questions about the court's orders today? Okay, thank you, everybody. You may be excused.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That was a wild one. I just cut it down to the main part there because the hearing went on. It was interesting and it was very sad. I watched most of it yesterday and today, and I just decided to cut it down to there because that's the nuts and bolts of the situation. And you can see, I get this sometimes in the comments. You can see, that all these judges just hold everybody in contempt. First of all, they don't. I don't think they hold enough people in contempt. But if you don't have contempt power, what are you supposed to do in a circumstance like that? And if you don't have contempt power, you would have that at every hearing. You would literally have that at every hearing. If you could just shout down the judge, uh, there goes law. I mean, literally, without contempt power, you don't have law. It's that simple. That could he have been? I can't think of a way he could have been more in contempt, at least via Zoom. If he was in the courtroom and throwing stuff at the judge, perhaps that would be the next level up is all I can think of. But he told the judge explicitly what he thought of him and his rulings, and you simply can't have that and maintain order. That was an interesting hearing. I appreciate y'all doing that. I just want to squeeze that in today. I think there may be more LawTube meetup. If I get any pictures or anything, I might share them in the community tab. There's a lot more stuff over on Twitter or floating around, but whatever. I'm new to that. I don't really get that, and I know that some of you aren't on that. That's why I threw a couple up there. But good times out here in California, and thank you for coming out. I will talk to you guys soon.